back, guys. Today we're going to continue our college football predictions with Week 7. And last week was not the best week for me on here. I went 16-8, and which leaves me with a grand total of 95-31. So my overall season past the halfway point hasn't been bad. Just that last week might have been my worst week. Now for this week, I'm going to say this right now. There will be two games that will not be predicted on this video, and that involves both Power 5 schools, and those schools are Georgia and Vanderbilt, because we all know Georgia is going to walk the dog on them, and Michigan, I believe Indiana is the other two schools I'm not going to do predictions for, because let's be real, Georgia and Michigan are the two best teams in the country right now. So that being said, let's get it started with the University of Houston taking on West Virginia. And I'm going to roll with West Virginia to win this game. I do believe both schools had bye weeks last week. Correct me if I'm wrong. Followed that with the University of Colorado taking on the Stanford Cardinals. And Colorado used a game-winning field goal to beat Arizona State, while Stanford, they're one of the worst schools in the Pac-12. And normally, yes, this game is not a Saturday game, and the commandment with that is when a game's not played on Saturday, usually the home team wins. But for the sake of this video, I'm still rolling with Colorado to win. I think they're more talented. They have a more talented roster than Stanford. And that brings us to Saturday, where Iowa State will take on the University of Cincinnati. And I'm just going to roll with Cincinnati to win. They're at home. Even though I do think these schools aren't evenly matched, I am going to roll with the Bearcats to win. Follow that up with the University of Arkansas taking on the Alabama Crimson Tide. My question is, what happened to Arkansas this year? I thought they were going to be much better than what the record indicates. I think they're like 2-4 right now, staring at 2-5 because of look at the team that they're facing. And Alabama, I'm beginning to think they're starting to figure things out with that team. And that's very scary for college football. And too bad Arkansas will not have time to think about what's coming at them when they travel to Tuscaloosa. Because Alabama should walk the dog on them. Follow that up with the Syracuse Orange taking on the Florida State Seminoles. Syracuse, yeah, the last 2 weeks have not been fun for this school. A home loss to Clemson, then turn around and lose to get destroyed by the North Carolina Tar Heels on the road. And then now this week they got to go to Florida State to take on the Seminoles. Yeah, they don't stand a chance in this one. Next we have is the Michigan State Spartans taking on the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. And with Michigan State, again, being one of the worst teams in the Big 12, I'm going to roll with Rutgers to win. And if I said Big 12, I meant Big 10. Apologies. Next we have is the Ohio State Buckeyes taking on the Purdue Boilermakers. And Ohio State overcame a slow start against Maryland before picking it up late in the game to get the W. And Purdue, they lost to Iowa. And that's all I know. But I do want to make a mention that the last time Ohio State went to Purdue, we met a guy named Rondale Moore. And he ran over the Buckeyes in a stunning upset win that season. I believe the late Dwayne Haskins was the quarterback in that season. May he rest in peace. I think Ohio State does have that in the back of their mind. And I do think they're going to get off to a bit of a slow start here too, but they should pick it up against Purdue. I got Ohio State winning. Follow that up with the University of California taking on the Utah Utes. And I don't know too much about their last week's activities. Although I do believe that Utah had a bye week. I think Utah did have a bye. And they're back at home. I'm going to go with Utah to win this game. Follow that up with the BYU Cougars taking on the TCU Horned Frogs. TCU, last time I saw them, they lost at home to somebody. But okay, whatever. I don't know much about these two schools at this point. But TCU's at home. I'm just going to pick the home team here. I do think TCU should win this game. And that follows with the Illinois Fighting Illini taking on the Maryland Terrapins. In Maryland, they had a good start against Ohio State. Too bad I didn't finish that way. And Illinois, they lost to Nebraska at home. So for this game, yeah, I'm taking Maryland. Maryland is a very sneaky school this year. They're a school that you should not take lightly. Follow that up with Wake Forest traveling to Blacksburg, Virginia to take on the Virginia Tech Hokies. Wake Forest, yeah, for the second week in a row, well, after their bye week, of course, their offense looked flat. They went, and I'm not going to lie, that Clemson game, they had a shot. Too bad, but it was just not enough. But meanwhile, for Virginia Tech, they had Florida State, and they got victimized of playing a better team. This one's more of a toss-up than what you think. On paper, you will think Wake Forest should win this game, but I'm actually going to go with Virginia Tech to win because I think Wake Forest, things are not looking good for this school than what you think. I'm going with the Hokies on this one. Follow that up with the Kansas Jayhawks taking on the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Oklahoma State, their season got back on track. They got a Friday night win over Kansas State. Meanwhile, the Jayhawks, they beat UCF, one of the newer schools in the Big 12. So for this game, I know Oklahoma State's at home. I think this one's going to be more closer than what you think. But I am going to lean towards Kansas to win this game. But if you ask me this question about 5 years ago, this choice would have been obvious. Follow that up with the Florida Gators taking on the South Carolina Gamecocks. Florida beat Vanderbilt. That's it. South Carolina, they had a bye week last week, but they're currently 2-3 at the start of the season, with losses coming to North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee. And those three schools I mentioned are no slouches by any means. So for this game, I do think South Carolina will bounce back, and they're at home. Sam Storm will be rising. I'm going with the Gamecocks to win. Next we have is the Texas A&M Aggies taking on the Tennessee Volunteers. A&M, they had a chance against Alabama, but they fell apart late in the game for whatever reason. And Tennessee, I believe they had a bye week last week too. I'm not sure what Tennessee activity was last week. But anyway, this game being in Rocky Top, yeah, I'm going to roll with the Volunteers to win. Follow that up with the game that's pretty much going to decide which one of these teams will play in the Big Ten Championship. I don't know what the Big Ten divisions are called. I think it's like a Legends and legends and honorees or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, the Iowa no-scoring Hawkeyes taking on the Wisconsin Badgers. Iowa got a win against Purdue, but their offense are still not good for this team. Yet Brian Ferentz is going to lose his job this year. Let's face it. Meanwhile, Wisconsin, they had a win. I think they beat Rutgers last week. And for this game, I do think the fans will be jumping around throughout this game. I'm going with the Wisconsin Badgers to win. Follow that up with the surprisingly 6-0 Louisville Cardinals taking on the surprisingly 1-5 Pitt Panthers. Might have been 1-4, but okay, whatever. Louisville, they beat Notre Dame, and Jack Harlow was in the audience. And whoever thought Louisville would be 6-0 at this point? Meanwhile, the Pitt Panthers, yeah, last time I saw them, they played Virginia Tech, and they lost to Virginia Tech. They're not a good team. I think Louisville will push this to a 7-0 record. And keep your eye on this team in the ACC. Follow that up with the Washington State Cougars taking on the Arizona Wildcats. I temporarily forgot what the mascot was for Arizona. My apologies. Washington State lost to UCLA on a defensive game of all games. Meanwhile, Arizona, they hung in there with USC, but they lost that game in triple overtime. I do think that's going to carry some of that, and I know Arizona probably feels good about themselves after this game. But going to Washington State, I gotta go with the Cougars to win. But I do think Arizona will make this game very, very close. Follow that up with the Miami Hurricanes taking on the North Carolina Tar Heels. North Carolina, let's get them out of the way first. They took care of Syracuse. Drake May was great. They're well rested. Welcome back, Tez Walker. Miami. Oh, Miami. All you had to do was take a knee and you would have won the game. Go 5-0. Instead, y'all, not only did you not take the knee, you gave the ball to your running back, who ironically fumbles. Then Georgia Tech used like 1 or 3 plays to throw the ball downfield and score with 2 seconds left. This is why you take the knee. And not to mention, Georgia Tech had no timeouts. This is why you take knees at football players. When the game's won, just take the knee, get the win, and get out of there. But now, and I heard Mario Cristobal throw the running back under the bus saying, he should have never fumbled. Dude, you should have took the knee. But anyway, ran aside. I'm rolling with North Carolina to win. They're at home. I think that atmosphere is going to be on fire. I do expect both quarterbacks to perform very, very well in this game. But I think North Carolina will come out on top for this one. And that leads us to Auburn taking on LSU. And that game's going to be at night. LSU at night. I think that pretty much sums up this pick. Follow that up with Kansas State taking on Texas Tech. While Texas Tech, they took care of Baylor, Kansas State lost to Oklahoma State on the road. Kind of surprised, and honestly, that game really surprised me. So for this game, I do think Kansas State will bounce back and win, but I will not be surprised if Texas Tech pull it off. Then we have the Missouri Tigers taking on the Kentucky Wildcats. Missouri, they put up 39 points against LSU. The only problem is their defense gave up 49 points and lost the game. Meanwhile, Kentucky, they did not have no chance against Georgia. I know, it happens. Who do I think is going to bounce back? And although I do like Missouri's offense, I'm going to go safe and pick the Kentucky Wildcats to win this game. I don't know. They're at home. Follow that up with a game that is surprisingly not my game of the week this week. The USC Trojans taking on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Notre Dame, yeah, they lost to Louisville on the road, and their offense is beginning to slip up a bit. I don't know what's going on with them. Meanwhile, USC, they started off mega slow against Arizona. They came all the way back and won the game in double overtime. But of all the unbeaten teams in college, in the Power 5, everyone's taking USC very lightly because of their lack of defense. I do think both offenses will get going. I think Notre Dame will bounce back. And honestly, picking this game is going to be tough because you got Notre Dame at home and USC with the Heisman Trophy winner. And because of that, I'm actually going to go with USC on the road to win this game. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just not sold on Notre Dame this year than most people is. And quickly going through UCLA and Oregon State, where UCLA did get a big time win over Washington State, but they're going to Oregon State. I'm going to pick the Beavers to win. Next, we have a game that normally they're in-state rivals, but you don't see these two schools play a lot in football. The North Carolina State Wolfpack taking on the Duke Blue Devils. Duke lost to Notre Dame last time we saw them. They had a bye week last week, and there are big question marks of them not having their starting quarterback Riley Leonard for this game. NC State, they had to fight and claw to beat Marshall. I do think whether Riley Leonard plays or not, I think Duke's defense is going to clamp down on the Wolfpack. I'm going to roll with the Blue Devils to win. I can't believe those words are coming out of my mouth. And that leads us to my game of the week for this week. The Oregon Ducks traveling to Washington to take on the Huskies. And yes, both these schools have bye weeks, so those were their activities. But if you don't know, right now my Heisman pick for this year is Michael Penix Jr. I think every game this year every game except for one, he's thrown for at least 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. It feels like that. Meanwhile, the Oregon Ducks, yes, they're at 5-0, and they look pretty good too. But I think for this game, I think Michael Penix put the nation on notice. I have the Huskies winning at home, and he's going to go crazy in this game. It's going to be one of those Joe Burrow type games for him. Remember when Burrow was in LSU? So it's going to be all Huskies in this one. But anyway, tell me what y'all think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.